Welcome.
It's time for the further adventures of Indiana Jones.
Some of the greatest adventures of my life are sitting in this museum.
Big deal.
Pack your bag, grab your passport, and prepare to go globetrotting with Marvel Comics' classic four-color adventures of Indiana Jones.
Oh, your teacher.
Part-time.
Mr. Henry Jones, Jr. of Princeton, New Jersey.
I like Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
Now, what shall we talk about?
Welcome, IndyCast listeners and Further fans, to the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. I'm Joe Stuber, and since Ed Dollista was kind enough to send the Raiders Red Line from Australia halfway around the world to the States, I'm going to go ahead and send it all the way over to Keith Voss in Austria.
Why, thank you, Joe. Always fun to go globe hopping with you, Indy, and all of the listeners. And I'm going to keep the red line going all the way back to Australia.
Australia, yes, sir. Our latest Indy adventure. It starts off in the Australian desert.
Yeah, issue number 11, part 1 of the fourth nail. I'm pretty excited. You ready to dive right in?
I am psyched for this. I am totally psyched. Hit me with the creators of this amazing tale, Keith.
You got it. Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, number 11, The Fourth Nail, Chapter 1, Blood and Sand. Cover date, November 1983. The cover, Kerry Gammill. Script, David Michelinie. Pencils by Kerry Gammill. Inks, Sam De La Rosa. Colors by Giuliana Ferretti. And letters by Joe Rosen. And also don't forget that the Fourth Nail made a really cool TSR gaming module as well for the Indiana Jones role-playing game. Lots of cool little background information on the locations and the characters and the Fourth Nail itself. So if you can, give that a read as well.
Kerry Gammill, our favorite Indiana Jones comic book artist.
Indeed.
Yep,
Indeed.
Go back and check out our interview with him on IndyCast 147 and 148 if you haven't listened to that already. He details these issues. Fantastic interview, gives us a lot of insight into what went on behind these issues. And again, just his crazy, insane attention to detail is what sets him apart, I believe. Don't you think, Keith?
I totally agree. And speaking of detail, check out that cover. Pretty cool cover. I'd say one of my favorites. The original sketch of this cover is on our Further Adventures Facebook page too, and on the IndyCast Flickr page.
Go check it out. What do you? Just push pause. Just push pause and stop. Go check it out.
But make sure you come back and listen to the rest of it, though.
Oh yeah, of course. But yeah, he sent that to us a few months ago, and we have that up there. And man, I just love getting these behind the scenes. This is one of my favorite covers. It's very cool. That perspective. Come on.
Yeah, he's hanging over the streets of Barcelona.
That's what you want from Indiana Jones right there.
Yeah, exactly. You have what I like to call our Pat Roach heavy of the issue.
He would have been playing him. Yeah, he would have.
Without a doubt. I mean, he looks like a Masters of the Universe figure, this guy. You could like kind of bend his arm down and
yeah.
But look at Indy hanging there. He's hanging like I said above the streets of Barcelona.
Yeah, why would Indy put himself in that situation? But if that is on the other end of it, maybe the drop wouldn't be that bad. Maybe you can hit a roof or something on the way down. But yeah, if that's what you're facing in that little contained area up there, I might take my chances on on the fall.
And they're pretty high up, too, because there are pigeons sitting up there.
There are, yeah. And they don't seem to be bothered by it.
No, they don't.
It's like, this happens all the time in Barcelona.
Yep, they always have a place to sit. Those pigeons.
Is that from Rocky V? Wait a minute. I made a Jaws 4 reference a few episodes ago, and you busted my chops for it. Now you're quoting Rocky V?
Say what you want about Rocky V.
Oh, that may be worse than Jaws 4. Oh, I don't know.
No, it's not. Come on. Anyway, all right, let's get back to this issue.
We talked about Indy's in Spain here. Well, wait a minute. We talked about Indy was in Australia. What was he going to run into Ed Dollista? How many horrible Australian accents are we going to do during this segment? I don't know. But we're going to get right into that. So why don't we start off in Australia with our issue? But before we get there,
the Wilhelmina Scream. Just to let you all know, in case you haven't read this we are going to be giving spoiler alerts. Thank you, Wilhelmina.
Yeah, we don't start off in Spain, even though our cover takes us there. We know we're going to end up there. But, man, that splash page by Gammill, sweet open.
Very sweet. And those inks, like Gammill mentioned in our interview with him, the way the inks are kind of splattered across there to look like that sandstorm. It's a perfect effect. I always had this little whenever I read this comic, I always had this little vision in my mind. Like obviously every Indiana Jones film opens up with the Paramount logo dissolving into something. I even started a thread on the Raven, things the Paramount logo can dissolve into in Indy time. Which actually there's some really good suggestions on there. If you guys haven't seen that, go check it out. Some pretty cool stuff. But I always thought it'd be cool to see the Paramount mountain just kind of be blown away like a sand dune, and then just have the whole screen just be covered in sand and have Indy just kind of bust through it like we see in this opening splash page.
Yeah, well, we had a little bit of that in Crystal Skull. You had like a little dirt mound kind of collapsed. But yeah, I think this one would have made just a little bit better open. Yeah, and doesn't this event again another one of these adventures that really would lend itself to a perfect movie. I mean, I think that would be a great, and yeah, I love how De La Rosa makes those ink splatters on there. Yeah, great splash page. Indy, here we are in Australia. Darwin, the capital of the Northern Territory, is referenced. Indy, as we have in our dialogue boxes there, or in our, as we have in some exposition boxes there, Indy thought this job was going to go well. When he arrived in Darwin, the capital of the Northern Territory, it seemed like all was going well. But when we get to the splash page, he's in the Gibson Desert, about 700 miles south of Darwin. All is not going well for Indiana Jones.
No, he's on the run as usual. He looks like a bandit in that splash page. He's carrying something. We don't quite know what it is yet, but he is being chased, obviously, by those spears that we see behind him.
Yeah, Indy's always running. I mean, and that's what I love about this adventure too, is that, and so many of these further adventures really put Indy into scenarios where we haven't seen him before. And I thought this one was really cool because you're just him kind of running across the desert, like you said. He's got the handkerchief there around to protect him. But while that is something unfamiliar, something very familiar. Indy running from poison projectiles.
Yeah, exactly.
He does that a lot.
It's typical Marvel style. It's this action right from the start. And then on the second page we get a little bit of expositional. Not necessarily dialogue, but thinking. Like
an internal monologue, yeah. And one thing, we referenced the Gammill interview, too, is that, if you recall, Kerry Gammill said he could never get the hat right.
I don't believe him.
No, I ain't buying it. No, I didn't believe him when he said it. I'm not believing it now. He nails the hat in every scene here.
Yeah, the artwork throughout this issue is really on a very high level.
Yeah, it is
very detailed, and it's quite amazing. But yeah, like you mentioned before, there is a lot of exposition here. Marcus seems to have sent Indy off once again to track down some evidence of the Arnhem cult, and he did find something. Looks like this calendar ring, which does make an appearance later on in the series. The Arnhem land was part of this Northern Territory, and the inhabitants headed west into the desert once modern civilization arrived. So it seems like Indy tracked down this calendar ring. A good thing it wasn't the Mayan calendar. Who knows?
Yes.
That's what he would have found. I wonder what the Arnhem calendar ring says the end of the world is going to be.
I don't know. Maybe it's 2013. I don't know. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Get an extra year out of this.
Yeah. So it's interesting. But we were talking off air before, and you bring up a pretty good point. Like these Aborigines, this tribe of Aborigines. Think, at least in the comic book, the Arnhem artifacts are gifts from their gods, and it seems like Indy stole this from them.
Yeah, this is something we've revisited.
He's being a grave. Is he being a grave robber?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting chased.
Well, I mean, I guess he took these things that he didn't think. He wasn't under the impression that the civilization would have survived. I mean, Marcus thought they may have, and that's why he was there. But he certainly didn't expect to be chased by Australian Aborigines at this point. But, again, you get into that moral ambiguity that is always present in Indiana Jones tales. Is he a grave robber? Does it belong in a museum? I mean, these kind of... But you can never discount the fact that he triggers this. He starts this. He didn't have to get this artifact, but he did, and they think it's theirs, so they go chasing after him. And look, they're going to take him out.
It's gifts from their gods, according to them. So they're doing whatever they can to reclaim this from the defiler, it's, but like you mentioned, we do get into a little bit of a moral ambiguity situation here, and he takes some cover, and he starts blasting away. We've seen him do that before.
That's the part I have a problem with, right there.
Yeah. I mean, he is. Look, it's again, we've mentioned this in other. In other segments, he's doing what he can to survive at this point. Whether he's right or wrong, it's Indiana Jones. Like, we've seen him do worse things.
Yeah. I think this is a slight cop out by Michelini at this point, though, because he's cornered, so he has to do something. But like I said, he triggered this to begin with. But he starts blasting these Aborigines. But then there's a panel there which says, "Man, 6 hits, but it didn't even slow him down." Okay, so I guess it didn't kill them, but it winged them, or so there's like that. Oh, it's still a comic book. We can't have Indy just killing people indiscriminately. But I mean, he still does open fire on them. So I don't know. I think it was a little bit of a cheat.
Maybe he was hoping to scare them off too, or something. I mean, I don't know. He did. I mean, he is aiming at them, and in the next panel, it shows them, screaming and yelling and dropping and dying. So he's shooting to kill. There's no, I just think it was a little bit of a cheat there, but obviously he empties the revolver, so he goes to his trusty whip, hoping that and then he says, "I'm keeping them cautious. Let's see to throw their aim off. How long can I keep this up?" So he starts whipping them, but regardless, I'll get past that. But that is a great panel there. I agree. I also love the panel where the Aborigines are kind of closing in on him, and Indy's swinging that whip around his head, but we got a bola that closes around Indy's leg, and did that remind you a little bit of Akator?
Yeah, it did. When he's kind of running down the steps there, and they think he's, he and Mac and the entourage are making their getaway there.
Well, also it's the same situation there too, Joe. They're, Indy is kind of the defiler. They're going through that one temple before they get to Akator, and the Uga are just defending their land.
Yeah, it's nothing new. I mean, I know it hits this. But in there he didn't open fire on them. So maybe that's
but the Russians did. I mean,
but they're the bad guys, and I think that's the whole thing. Is when Indy's going after the Ark, he's trying to stop the Nazis from getting it. So there's a moral high ground that he can take. I don't know that necessarily these little teaser sequences have the gravitas of that moral high ground that he can take.
Well, you want to talk about moral high ground? Just go back to the biggest moral story in Raiders is what he did with Marion when she was a kid. I mean, that's something that's really overlooked. You know what I mean? Let's talk. You know what I mean? So Indy's morals are a little bit already ambiguous. Yeah. So this doesn't really surprise me when I see him kind of take these guys out like this for the reason that he does. Indy's a survivor. He's a survivor. So whether he does the right thing or the wrong thing, he's going to survive.
I don't know. I just didn't think he had the moral high ground in this, but he does have the geographical high ground, but not for long. The bolas take him out.
Doesn't really help him.
He's captured. Yeah. No, and so the Aborigines, they've got him cornered. He's out of ammunition. He's waiting for these spears to come take him out, and then all of a sudden the sand comes blowing in, and as it clears, the Aborigines are gone.
They're dead, all of them. Just when you think it's the end for Indy, again, somehow he gets saved. He has the luck of a saint, as Marion said in issue number 10. We get our first view of the Ismaili assassins.
Yeah, that's actually
three of them.
Yeah, that's 3 men in black holding bloody swords, and Indy has no idea what's going on.
Only that they just took out
all of
every
them.
Single Aborigine that was there.
Yeah. So these guys mean business.
Stuff. Yeah, very cool though. I really love these characters.
Well, it's well plotted out. I mean, there is, regardless of what you feel about the moral ambiguity of Indy or how these tales go, there's a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot going on just in the first few panels of this adventure.
Action-packed. One of the assassins uses a whistle type signal with his hand, and Indy seems to recognize this. Maybe as Arabic. Is that his first clue as to who
he
these
said
guys
he only heard it in the bars around Cairo, but then he's like, well, what would Arabs be doing in the middle of Australia? So something's going on. There's more here than meets the eye with these guys.
Yeah, not only that, they know who he is.
Yeah.
They talk to, they call him by name. Dr. Jones, please get into this Jeep. And
our master wishes you safe.
Yeah.
Who's the master?
Who is it? Well, we're about to meet him in the next few panels. The assassins lead Indy to this cave entrance, and boy, is he surprised when he goes in there. Yeah,
because he's like, what kind of master lives in a hole in the ground? And then it's funny, they Michelini writes a line, there are holes, and then there are holes. And, to me, we've always talked about the connection between Indiana Jones and James Bond.
I thought you were gonna talk about the connection between Indiana Jones and Holes, the movie with Shia LaBeouf. I thought that's where you were going with this. Okay, James Bond.
Is this just bad movie reference segment? Or...
Well, you said Holes and Shia LaBeouf was in Crystal Skull, so I thought that's where you're going with that. All right, so
it's too many bad movie references.
All right. It is very James Bond, Joe. I will admit it's a lavish palace carved in a mountainside.
Yeah,
I mean, look at everything that he has in this place. And when I say he, I'm talking about Ben Ali Ayoob.
Do you remember me?
I don't recall your name, but your fez is familiar.
Yeah, well, a very cool character. So many cool characters are introduced in Further Adventures, and we're only on issue 11. I mean, there's some good stuff going on, but
his introduction picture too is like that classic serial circle panel that we've talked about before.
Yeah, Kerry Gammill mentioned that he did that in a couple of his previous adventures as well. So those sort of character introductions.
It seems like he's the guy. He has an interest in relics. Okay. Which is why he dispatched these assassins to get Indy, okay? Which again we find out these Ismaili assassins are the Middle East equivalent of Japanese ninjas, okay? Some of my favorite characters throughout the series and happen to appear in one of my favorite stories. And I think that's also another element that really makes this story stand out. We have a great villain. We already have a great supporting cast of villains, great locations, great sidekicks, which we'll get to later. But this just starts off really with a bang.
And again, these just sort of like, are they villains? Are they not villains? Like, what's going on here? Because, he says he's headquartered in Switzerland. He has other locations around the world. This happens to be one of them. And so he's kind of showing Indy around the place. But we don't really know what his deal is.
That's true.
It's just one of these things, where he hires Indy to basically, and here's that scene that kind of reminds me of the scene in Last Crusade with Walter Donovan.
Yeah, me too.
Where he kind of said, this gets the ball rolling, and the fact that, here's our MacGuffin. He wants to go after the fourth nail. He's going to hire Indy to do it, and he wants to send him off on this chase. So that, we've got a lot of expositional dialogue in these next couple panels. But again, Donovan turned out to be the villain of the piece, so we kind of suspect that with Ben Ali Ayoob, but we don't. Indy's a little suspicious too, so he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, he is just really a great character. I like how he mentions to Indy that for a while many men collect artifacts. He can say that he actually lives in one, which is very cool. And if you notice one of the artifacts on the wall, it looks to me like Kali. Yeah, while Ali Ayoob is explaining about the fourth nail, which is our MacGuffin of this 2-issue arc, it looks like there's a statue of Kali in one of these panels. Do you see it?
Yeah, it does. A lot of opportunity here for Kerry Gammill to just go crazy with that detail that he likes to use so much. But yeah, I mean, obviously, long before Temple of Doom came on scene. Not long before, but enough before.
But yeah, you're right. This does have a very big James Bond feel to it. And again, this is where our plot gets going. He starts telling Indy about the fourth nail, and it's again right out of an Indiana Jones movie. Even down to the legend says. Like, you always hear Indy in the movie say, legend says, and legend says that when Jesus was crucified, 4 spikes or nails were allotted, one for each hand, one for the feet, and one to administer the death blow to the heart. A pretty cool idea for a MacGuffin.
Yeah, there's a lot of legendary tales about that. And again, how you react to the MacGuffin in any Indiana Jones tale is always based upon your belief, and a lot of them cross over into that sort of religious territory.
Sure.
Me personally, I don't believe it was a cross. I believe it goes to, and even, in according to Greek scholar, when you do some research here, W. Vine, you go to the original word, the original Greek word staros, denotes primarily an upright pale or stake. So basically an upright pole or tree, sometimes they refer to it as. So again, that would sort of take out the fourth nail aspect of it. So again, depending on whether or not what your belief was, whether it was a stake, whether it's a cross, that's where you go into. So I don't buy the MacGuffin. Full disclosure, I ain't buying the MacGuffin in this one. But even with the Ark of the Covenant, when you go in, it's just if you do the homework, it wouldn't have been there.
Yep.
It's just it's ambiguous as to what happens. But again, Last Crusade, same thing. So depending on what your belief system is, but I don't really think the Indiana Jones tales are based on the factual evidence of the MacGuffin. It's just a plot device that gets you from point A to point B. We just want to see Indy running and jumping and shooting stuff and fighting German mechanics and stuff like that.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I'm not a very religious person now. When I was growing up, I went to Catholic school. I grew up Roman Catholic, and I mean, I was exposed to crosses, every day of my life, and I saw those stakes in the hands and in the feet as something that we're exposed to often as children going to church or going to Catholic school. So it's something that I was already familiar with. So it kind of made sense to me when I first read this book as a youngster. So I'm with the MacGuffin in this one, I have to say. So it kind of makes sense for me. So it's interesting how that works out with a belief system in how it affects your enjoyment of the story. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, and the story itself takes off because Ben Ali Ayoob believes it, and he wants to hire Indy to go get it, and he's willing to pay him $10,000 American, and there'll be another $15,000 when he gets to Aldron. I mean, when he brings him the fourth nail back. Well, yeah, okay. It's a lot of money on the table for Indy to go get this thing, and Indy's like, you know what? No thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather not get it. And Ben
he has
Ali
a working arrangement. He has a
does.
working arrangement with Marcus already,
Yeah, he's not for hire, but but there's a counteroffer. Ben Ali Ayoob offers to relieve Indy from his calendar ring. So he's willing to take that from him if he doesn't help him out. And then Indy makes a counteroffer.
Yeah, he has 6 reasons why he shouldn't give him the
Smith & Wesson.
And Ayoob likes that. He seems to like his sense of humor, and he respects Indy. You could tell he respects him, and he likes that he was placed. Ayoob even says it. He was placed in check by an equal, or at least a near equal. So while he respects Indy, he kind of still sees himself as above him.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Yeah, let him go." And then Hassan, he tells Hassan,
"Sesame."
He tells Hassan to take Indy wherever you want. Indy, makes an exit. That's a little too easy. And he's like, "Hey, thanks, Ayoob. I appreciate the hospitality." Yeah, no, that's not happening. Ayoob, after Indy takes off, he kind of turns to Rashid, kind of his right-hand man, and says, "Take 3 of your best men. And you know what? There's more than one way to skin a cat."
That's right. But I mean, at this point, you know there's something going on here. I mean, that's why I mentioned before villains. I mean, maybe you don't know in the first moment, but yeah, I mean,
now we do.
It's pretty obvious at this point. And we get a pretty cool shot of Indy boarding a plane, and he's putting his hands back, and I'm surprised that Gammill didn't draw the hat down over his eyes there. But a nice callback to Raiders there. And it looks like Indy just doesn't really believe in the fourth nail, does he?
No, he's not buying the MacGuffin either right now. He thinks it's a bunch of malarkey, hokum, a fairy tale. Kind of.
But then again,
plane takes off. Indy stays behind. Yeah, you know what? Then again, why don't I head to Barcelona?
Yeah, exactly.
Just to check this out, because that's where apparently Ben Ali Ayoob has tracked this down. He believes that a gypsy had taken this fourth nail at the time, and that's why they're blessed or whatever. Because they, how did he put it? It exists in the possession of Puri Dai, a gypsy shaman somewhere in the north of Spain. So that's why he's hired Indy to go chase this thing. So Indy's like, hey, you know what? Why don't I go chase it? It'd be kind of a cool adventure. He ships the calendar ring back to Marcus. We get a nice little moment between Marcus and Marion here back in the States.
Yeah, it's nice to see Marion come on back again. And, I think nobody draws Marion like Gammill draws Marion.
It's pretty cool.
It's right on if you ask my opinion. And Marcus makes a mention of the Raven's Nest.
Should we tell Marion that we bought the place and refurbished it?
Nah, what doesn't? No. What she doesn't
now.
know doesn't hurt her, I guess.
It's ours now.
It's ours now. She lost out.
She lost out. We put the money into it. So, but Marcus is offering her a job. I guess the gal reporter thing didn't work out. So, bar owner, restaurant owner, gal reporter doesn't work out. So Marcus is offering her a job. He's not really specific right now in what this job is. And she's kind of hesitant. But then he says, well, it would really tick Indy off if you took it. And she's like, oh, well, maybe I will. So I think that is totally in character with Marion.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, they're unwrapping the calendar ring, and there's a little message there from Marcus, which explains that Indy has made his way to Barcelona.
I am from Barcelona.
That's right. We got the red line. Takes us to Spain, which is a great location for an Indiana Jones adventure. Something we didn't see in the movies, and would have just made a perfect location for a movie.
Yeah, and it really shows you don't have to have Sala in every adventure. Because we're talking, Indy 4, we needed Sala. Indy 5, I wonder if Sala's going to... Okay, yeah, but you don't have to. I love the fact that they just keep introducing new villains, new sidekicks. In this case, he's looking for Torino, one of his contacts. It just shows the breadth of Indiana Jones adventures, how he just knows everybody everywhere. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
I don't think you have to keep bringing these same characters in. Yeah, it'd be nice to have John Rhys Davies in it, but I don't think you need him. I don't think you need him in 3 films.
I totally agree. But Indy does stumble upon a shell game. Wait a minute. Is that Elliot Brown in the background?
That is Further Adventures editor Elliot Brown in the background of that one shot there at the bottom right panel.
It's funny, yeah. He drew himself in there, didn't he?
Yeah, we talked about that because Kerry Gammill. I mean, again, appreciate the detail that Gammill puts into these, but that takes time. And so, if you listen to those interviews back, Kerry Gammill talked about how he really wanted to put a lot of detail into these things, but it just put him behind in the book, which is why he only was able to do a few of the books, and even the conclusion of this adventure, he only did half of it. But some of the artwork got submitted where Elliot Brown was the editor on the book. You can go back and check out his interview. We talked to Elliot Brown as well. But he mentioned there's some of the background scenes didn't have as much in that he wanted because Gammill was really hurrying these pencils and getting them in. So he drew himself in there, which is
surprising. I mean, if you look at these pencils, they don't look rushed at all. I guess he was just taking his time. Maybe he was running late that way. I don't know.
Yeah, and just, we'll put those pencils up. I mean, we have. I think we put them on the Raven. We put them on the Facebook page and the Flickr page, the IndyCast Flickr page. But we'll put those back up there, and you'll see the original pencils, and you'll see the difference on some of the things that were left out. It's kind of cool to look at when you go through. But yeah, we've got this shell game, and it turns out the guy running this shell game, which is a crooked shell game, by the way. Well, are any of them on the but that's Torino. I mean, there he is, right there. And all of a sudden, the guys are onto him. They figure out that he's running this crooked shell game. He takes off. The crowd's after him, and he bumps right into Indiana Jones. And the first thing he does...
take his wallet.
Just so small.
I mean, Torino is a great character. He's a swindler, but he's a sweetheart, and I think he's really a perfect sidekick for Indiana Jones. Again, we don't need Sal, we don't need Short Round, we don't need whoever. I think Torino is great in this adventure. I wish we could have seen more of him.
But it also shows that Indy, he just runs into these shady characters sometimes, and he uses them as a means to an end, as he kind of goes through these things. So, and Torino's about as shady as it gets. I mean, the first thing he sees, he tries to take his wallet. That's amazing.
And he's swindling guys on the street, but he says even himself, "Sorry, amigo, it's a force of habit. I have to make a living."
Yeah. So, but you know what? It's not much of a living because the mob rushes them, and they are about to get Indy and Torino. So, a big chase scene is on the way. But before we get to that huge chase scene,
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Watch out! Yikes!
Fight like a man.
Where's me spinach? Yeah!
You choke, you wimp.
I ain't wimpy. I'm much better looking.
The new Popeye video game available for most popular home video and computer systems.
Popeye, trying to get away from Brutus, the sea hag, vultures.
Yeah, before we get to that chase scene, there's
sometimes.
another crazy chase scene. Oh, this was one of my favorite games as a kid.
I love
this. If you have the original comic book that we're talking about, so if you have the omnibus, I don't think they're in there, but you got the original ads from these comic books. So if you don't have them, go get them because these things are cool. This really is a time travel machine as you go. Yeah, I love the game Popeye. It was so cool.
Me too. I remember that was one of the first games I owned when I had an Atari, and I think I wore that thing out, man. I loved Popeye.
I played it in the arcade all the time. I mean, mine was more arcade driven. So this is the Parker Brothers version that came out for the Atari 2600. But I can't even tell you how many quarters I lost in Popeye. You're just like running around trying to get those hearts, like Olive's like flinging those hearts, and you're trying to get to her. And you got Sea Hag, and you got these vultures are coming down, and it just played out like the cartoon. It was so cool.
Totally.
Man, going back to our adventure, Indy's getting chased, and they're going to get chased by this mob. They're going to try and hide out in the cathedral.
That's right.
Now we start to see where our cover's coming into play here.
Yeah, exactly.
We know where this is going to go. Indy's going to end up high and hanging off the edge at some point.
At this cathedral, it seems like there's also kind of a construction site, which also it gave me a little bit of a Remo Williams vibe, if anybody's ever seen that, where the Statue of Liberty was kind of under reconstruction at that point, and they go through this whole little construction area, and it's really quite cool. We get more bolas here too.
But this time Indy's seen enough of them at this point. Now he's not thrown by them. He knows how to use them to his advantage.
He swings his arm around and knocks that one guy out. It's pretty.
Yeah, another great chase scene, another great fight scene, and these guys are kind of easily dispatched. I mean, even Torino.
Torino is like
he can take a few of them out.
I'm not much of a fighter, but with opponents such as these, he doesn't need to be. But
he ducks. They take each other out. It gets a little comical right here. Indy throws a few haymakers.
That's a typical Sidekick thing. He's the comic relief. It's not too much. It's not over the top. Just enough.
No.
You know what I mean?
But then you get the comedy where Indy draws back on one of these haymakers and boink, runs right into Pat Roach.
Yeah. If this was a movie, here would be Pat Roach.
That's Pat Roach. I'm just going to put him in it because he absolutely would have played that. This mountain of a man who's coming in. This guy is not going to be a pushover. He's the guy on our cover. Take a look at this thing, and this fight just starts to get crazy.
Absolutely, and I think this is really the first time in the series that we get like a confrontation, such as the German mechanic fight or the giant thuggy guard, or
Yeah, Indy's had a lot of fights, but this one is just this one is really good.
Cool. This guy throws a kick in Bane Dark Knight Rises style. He knocks out a chunk of the
it's like a pillar. Yeah, one of the pillars pillar. on the cathedral there, and then the chase goes up a flight of steps. It goes up a ladder. So you've got him like running after. So Indy's able to get ahead of him because he's obviously a little bit more spry than this giant guy. So he chases him up to the rooftop, and also I kind of thought of Batman, the '89 Michael Keaton Batman. When we get up there,
yes,
because that big bell from the top of the church is going to come in, and Indy tries to use it. Doesn't have a whole lot of effect when he hits him.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, this guy is one of his tougher opponents that he's faced. But Indy's always thinking. Indy's he's swinging around, and that's where again, like you mentioned, that's where our cover comes in. He's hanging over the streets of Barcelona. And just when he thinks he's safe, he kind
of swings his whip. I mean, he does get away from the guy, but he whips a statue, which we've seen him do other times. But the statue breaks, so it's just like one thing after another.
Yeah,
but then there's that one panel where he's falling and he tries to get the whip, and he catches it, I guess, in between two of the blocks that's
Right.
on this cathedral, which, okay, yeah, I mean, suspension of disbelief. But you know what? When he goes onto the truck in Raiders, he kind of does the same thing. He
does the
takes
same
the
thing.
end of the thing and he jams
Exactly.
it. Well, what does he hook it onto?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the axle, but there's not really you know what I mean? It's so quick.
He's quick thinking. He
It just
saw
kind of
something
jams
and
in
he
there.
just does it. Yeah. But I mean, like,
But you buy it in Raiders, so you buy
exactly.
it here. You buy it
You
here.
should buy it here. But you see him pulling himself up, and you just get that Raiders in the Chachapoyan Temple vibe of you know, that smile. Like he grabs that little, you know, weed or whatever it is. He smiles and he
Yeah,
pulls
is that the
himself up.
best
just
shot?
Get that grin, right? Look at that. Look at that grin on his face. But then you just see Gringo.
Yeah.
And that guy's just
I mean,
there
well, that's the
waiting
thing,
for
you know.
him.
Indy he's that relief, you know. He's done it, you know. And then all of a sudden, no, you're right back in the fire
Yeah,
again.
I mean, the magic and the essence of what Indiana Jones is perfectly captured in these books.
Yeah, I mean, great artwork by Gammill. If you don't think he's the best Indiana Jones comic book artist, man, just go through these adventures again. I would debate that with anybody because they're crazy detailed, and just how I love how, you know, Michelini now has Indy using brains over brawn because he's not going to beat this guy. We know that.
No.
He's not going to be it. There's no propeller that's going to come to take this guy out. You know, that's how Indy wins a lot of these fights, is that something else takes him out.
Again, yeah, they're doing renovations at this cathedral, and he realizes, okay,
he's over the weak spot of the roof that we saw a few panels earlier. So let me see if I can guide him over there. And he does. Crashes right through the ceiling, the roof, comes down through. He's taken out.
for now.
For now.
But again, a great fight scene. One of the classics.
Yeah, and then he hooks back up with Torino again. He says, you know, and then all of a sudden the police show up. Yeah.
it's
but
kind of
Torino,
interesting.
he knows this place like the back of his hand, so he takes Indy on, you know, this little secret passage, which just happens to be the sewer, the local sewer.
Yes, he's going to take him to Juan Carlos the blacksmith. You know, his cousin is married to his sister, and whatever. You know, the whole.
Yeah.
I really love Tori. He's
good.
You could just hear the accent, and you can just imagine the personality.
Yeah,
that he
he's a
has.
little more caricature than character, but I still like him as a character.
I am from Barcelona.
I totally agree. So yeah, Tori leads Indy down into the sewer. Lovely.
What a terrific smell Torino has discovered.
Yeah, but he starts. Indy. It's interesting. Indy, for all of Tori's, you know, setbacks as being a swindler and a cheat, you know, he starts letting Tori in a little bit about why he's there. He brings up the fourth nail.
Yeah. Well, Tori doesn't want to hear anything about that.
No, I mean,
because he knows there's something bad about this, and he says the Puri dye would cut off small parts of my body that I would miss very much.
Yes, exactly. I mean,
if he were to have anything to do with
Tori is also a gypsy, so I'm sure he's heard legends, and he, yeah, like you said, he just doesn't want to be involved.
Right. And so he's let's head out. They make their way through the sewers. Let's see if the coast is clear. They head up, but Tori's like disappears. He takes off, and so again we have that. Is Indy being set up? What's going on? You know, Indy climbs up out of the sewer. He sees that Tori is gone. He thinks maybe he scared him off with all this fourth nail talk.
Well, yeah, he's saying that gypsies are a superstitious bunch. But he still thinks that he can track him down again. But I mean, Indy was just like crawling around in a sewer for a while. He's like, I gotta get changed here.
He's gonna head out. He'll get cleaned up.
Indy picks up another smell though.
Yeah, he's slowly realizing where he is. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, this place isn't much better than a sewer. It smells like animals. What's this? There's a poster on the wall. He kind of cleans it up a little bit to see what it is, and he sees toros.
Yep, advertisement for a bullfight, and someone has let the bull out of its pen.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take very long before Indy hears the roar, and we flip onto that last splash page. I love how this book is bookended with two perfect splash pages. And man, here we go. And what an angle. That is one of the best shots of Indy in a comic book ever.
Look at that bull charging him.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way Indy can possibly get out of this one. I mean, here we go. We've got this bull coming right at Indy.
That's the real thing too, man. That's just, I mean, look at that thing. It's I mean, look at the air coming out of its nostrils, and you just, you know, can you imagine what he's gonna have to do to get out of that situation? I wonder what's gonna happen.
I don't know, but we're gonna find out on our next segment for the exciting conclusion to the fourth nail.
Okay, that's it for the day then.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, and oh boy, what a horrible place we're leaving Indy in. I'm not sure how he's going to get out of this one.
He's just going to have to grab the bull by the horns, Joe.
I would guess he would have to. That's what Indiana Jones does. And hey, I tell you what, if you like this adventure, if you like another further adventure, if you've got anything to talk about that you want to share with us, please, emails, Facebook page, comments, all those things. Keith, where can they send emails?
The Further Adventures at gmail.com. And like Joe mentioned, Facebook page, come check us out. We got a bunch of new likes recently, and we're going to be putting up, or I think it's already up there, isn't it, Joe? We have all the Kerry Gammill pencils from the fourth nail, the first issue. Come and check it out. We'll be waiting for you.
Cool stuff that's out there, and more cool stuff on the way. We're going to get Indy out of this tough spot the next time on The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.